ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨਵੇਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਰਕਰ ਲੋਕਡਾਊਨ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਦੀ ਯੋਗਤਾ ਦਾ ਆਰਜ਼ੀ ਤੌਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਵਿਸਥਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਮਨ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਲਾਗੂ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਪੈਸਿਟੀ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਉਪ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਅਤੇ ਵਿੱਤ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟੀਆ ਫਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਰੈਗੂਲੇਟਰੀ ਸ਼ਕਤੀਆਂ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਓਟਵਾ ਸਥਾਨਕ ਲੋਕਡਾਊਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਰਕਰ ਲੋਕਡਾਊਨ ਲਾਭ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਦਲਾਅ ਕਰੇਗਾ।
Today, through regulatory authorities that were approved with the passage of Bill C2, we are announcing our decision to temporarily expand the definition of a lockdown so that these wage and rent support programs can support workers and businesses that see capacity restricted by 50% or more. So, what exactly does this mean? It means that if you are an employer who has to reduce the capacity of your main business by 50% or more, you will be eligible for wage and rent subsidy support through the local lockdown program. And we are lowering the revenue decline threshold from 40% to 25%. Eligible employers will receive wage and rent subsidy support from between 25% to up to 75%, depending on how much revenue they have lost. Your organization only needs to demonstrate revenue loss during the current month compared with 2019. Employers will be able to apply for these expanded support programs after the end of each program period in exactly the same way that they received wage and rent subsidy support when those programs were launched last year.
ਬੁੱਧਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਰੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਅਪਡੇਟ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਟਾਫ ਦੇ 3 ਮੈਂਬਰ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਦੇ 3 ਮੈਂਬਰ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਪੋਜ਼ਿਟਿਵ ਆਏ ਹਨ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਲਈ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਟੈਸਟ ਅਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਨੈਗੇਟਿਵ ਆਏ ਹਨ। ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਦੂਰ ਦਰਾਜ਼ ਤੋਂ ਇਸ ਲਈ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਹੈਲਥ ਗਾਈਡਲਾਈਨਸ ਦਾ ਪਾਲਣ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ।
We need to prevent Omicron from overwhelming our healthcare systems. In order to do that, we have to keep contacts low. We have to make choices that are going to keep us and our families safe because Omicron is out there. And the way we show our support for those people who've been keeping us safe is by making sure they don't get overloaded this winter. We know this variant is spreading very quickly around the world, around the country, and indeed around our own communities and offices. My office is not immune. We have 3 members of my staff and 3 members of my security detail who've tested positive. They're following all public health guidance. So am I, and so must we all. But it's a reminder that the virus is all around us. It's very much a threat. We have to keep our guard up. The thing is, though, we know what works. Canadians have shown over the past 2 years that we're able to step up for each other, that we are there for each other. We know what to do. We know how to wear masks. We know how to keep our distances. We know how to reduce our contact numbers. And if we do that well, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a better winter and especially a better spring than otherwise. I know nobody wants to be in this situation right now, but Canadians have shown that we're there for our neighbors. We're there for our most vulnerable. We're there for our frontline health workers. We have vaccines. We have PPE. We have rapid tests. We know what to do. We're going to do it. Because that's who we are as Canadians. We stick up for each other. We make those tough choices to keep each other safe. And we know that as long and dark as winters can be, spring is coming and spring will be better if we hunker down in the coming weeks.
ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਅਤੇ ਐਗਰੀ ਫੂਡ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਮੈਰੀ ਕਲੋਡ ਨੇ ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਫੂਡ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਫੰਡ ਲਈ $30 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਦੇ ਟੌਪ ਅਪ ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਫੰਡ ਦੇ ਅਧੀਨ ਕੁੱਲ ਫੰਡ $330 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਵਾਧੂ ਨਿਵੇਸ਼ ਦਾ ਉਦੇਸ਼ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਮਹਾਮਾਰੀ ਦੇ ਨਤੀਜੇ ਵਜੋਂ ਫੂਡ ਬੈਂਕਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਸਥਾਨਕ ਭੋਜਨ ਸੰਸਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਦਰਪੇਸ਼ ਵਧੀ ਹੋਈ ਮੰਗ ਅਤੇ ਘੱਟ ਸਰੋਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੱਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ।
We have seen some remarkable food security initiatives over the pandemic. For second harvest, 2021 has been another big year, with 110,000 meals provided a day on average, and 41 million pounds of food rescued and redistributed to over 6,400 non-profit programs across Canada. With the help of federal emergency food security funds, the Community Food Centres Canada launched their Good Food Access Fund grant program for communities across Canada. This fund is giving access to food for low-income community members who struggle with increased costs and the physical barriers they face because of lack of retail or transportation available. Community food centers also provided helicopter drops of food to First Nation communities impacted by the BC floods. And when the pandemic closed community meal centers, Salvation Army sprung into action, delivering meals on the streets and takeout meals to people experiencing vulnerability. And thanks to the emergency food security funding, they are now delivering food directly to the residences of seniors and other individuals who can't leave because of the pandemic. Bravo to you all. These are only some examples of the amazing impact that each of your organizations and each food bank that you support has had in communities across our country. And for that, we are very grateful to you. You can count on our government to keep supporting Canada's food banks and local food organizations. It's essential that they can offer the services Canadians rely on to feel safe and healthy, especially during the holiday season. Today, I am pleased to announce a $30 million top-up for the Emergency Food Security Fund, which brings our total funding to $330 million. Just as we did since the beginning, funding will be divided among Food Banks Canada, Second Harvest, Breakfast Club of Canada, Community Food Centres Canada, Salvation Army, and La Table des Chefs. These partners will continue their important work to distribute it to thousands of local food organizations across Canada. Our partners will contribute to the distribution of surplus potatoes from Prince Edward Island, which are excellent quality, but currently face border restrictions with the US.
ਮੈਨੀਟੋਬਾ ਦੇ ਕੈਬਨਿਟ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਸਕਾਟ ਫੀਲਡਿੰਗ ਅਤੇ ਜੌਨ ਰੇਸ ਨੇ ਸੂਬੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਵੀਨਤਮ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਸਮਰੱਥਾ ਸੀਮਾਵਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਕਾਰੋਬਾਰਾਂ ਲਈ ਨਵੀਂ ਸਰਕਾਰੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇਹ ਸੈਕਟਰ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ $22 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਤੱਕ ਦੀ ਵਿੱਤੀ ਰਾਹਤ ਪ੍ਰਦਾਨ ਕਰੇਗਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਯੋਗ ਕਾਰੋਬਾਰ ਕਰਮਚਾਰੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਆਧਾਰ ਤੇ $12,000 ਤੱਕ ਦੀਆਂ ਗ੍ਰਾਂਟਾਂ ਲਈ ਅਰਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਸਕਣਗੇ।
Despite facing hardships and uncertainty, our business community has been very resilient through this whole process and innovative at doing what they do best, adapting to changing public health orders and adapting their businesses and finding innovative ways to reach out to customers and clients, doing it in a safe way. As trusted community partners, they followed the public health orders, ensured compliance by the public, and made their workplaces safe for employees and customers. And throughout the difficult times, our government has worked closely with the business community and industry partners to listen to the concerns and seek input about the supports they needed and when they needed it most. Through continued engagement and dialogue, the collective insight of businesses, industry, and economic development partners have helped inform and guide a lot of the business support programs that we put in place along the way through the course of the pandemic over the last almost 2 years. The uncertainty and risks associated with the new variant poses new threats to our business community and requires a comprehensive and urgent response. Accordingly, we are acting to provide financial supports to Manitoba businesses most impacted by public health orders. Since the pandemic has began, and actually in the last budget, we put a $1.18 billion in the budget for healthcare and other COVID-related costs, including business supports. This has enabled us to support businesses at a critical time when they're being asked to reduce capacity in certain industries to make sure that Manitobans are safe. It's estimated that close to 1,800 businesses impacted by the recent health orders will benefit Manitobans. In all total, there's been about 38,000 businesses that have been supported, or almost 1/3 of businesses. Just in terms of some of the grant programs we've got the Bridge Grant Program we've identified where businesses could get the support of upwards of 20,000 for individuals. The GAP program, wage support program, you may recall that's $5,000 per employee. There was upwards of almost 16,000 employees that benefited from this and 4,000 businesses. We provided sector support to places like the hotel sector. There's $8 million that were dedicated towards them, as well as $8 million to arts and culture sector. A sick leave program, about 1,400 businesses have been supported, and over 6,000 people, as well as long-term supports for businesses through the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, through the digital and Retrain Manitoba. So there's been a lot of supports that are in place.
ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਜੇਸਨ ਕੈਨੀ ਅਤੇ ਸੂਬੇ ਦੇ ਸਿਹਤ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਅਫਸਰ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਡੀਨਾ ਹਿੰਸ਼ਾ ਨੇ ਸੂਬੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਸਥਿਤੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਪ੍ਰਦਾਨ ਕੀਤੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੇਸਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧੇ ਅਤੇ ਓਮਿਕਰੋਨ ਵੇਰੀਐਂਟ ਦੇ ਫੈਲਣ ਦੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੂਬਾ ਸਖਤ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਗੂ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਨਵੇਂ ਉਪਾਅ 24 ਦਸੰਬਰ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਸਿੱਧੇ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ 10 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਤੱਕ ਦੇ ਰੈਪਿਡ ਟੈਸਟਾਂ ਦੀ ਖਰੀਦ ਕਰੇਗੀ, ਜੋ ਜਨਵਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਸਨੀਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਕਰਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਉਮੀਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ।
Since I stood in front of you about a week ago, the situation in our province has continued to evolve, underscoring the importance of continued efforts by Albertans to protect themselves and the health system from the Omicron variant that is moving rapidly all around the world. Our active cases have gone from about 4,000 on December 14th to 6,000 yesterday. Our positivity rate, which has been at or below 3% for most of the month, has begun to climb in recent days and is now at 11%. We've also seen a rise in the number of confirmed Omicron cases in the province, and the proportion of total cases identified as the new variant is growing quickly. Between the 3rd and 9th of December, it represented just 1% of all cases. Between the 10th and 16th of December, about 22% of all new cases in Alberta were Omicron. And between December 16th and 18th, Omicron represented roughly 52% of all cases. Now, as I said last week, there are still many unknowns about this variant, and we continue to very closely study the emerging data around the world. But what we do know is that this variant is more transmissible than any previous strain of the COVID-19 virus. That is why we've already taken steps to protect Albertans, including expanding the eligibility of booster doses to all healthcare workers and everyone 50 years of age and older, as well as making more than 2.5 million rapid tests available for free across the province. Altogether, we've distributed since the beginning over 8.5 million rapid tests. In addition to expanding eligibility for booster doses and procuring millions of rapid tests for Albertans, Minister Copping will speak to some additional targeted public health measures that we are taking to help slow the rapid spread of Omicron. These are largely focused at avoiding super spreader events by reducing contacts in large settings like major events, large capacity venues, and certain discretionary activities where there is a high risk of transmission. While these changes look at reducing contacts in large settings, it's important to remember that small everyday actions can have an important impact as well.